Hello and welcome to the We Will Fix It Show, a Podaholics podcast with Colin from WeWillFixIt.com. For the next hour, we're going to be talking about fixing stuff. We had a wonderful conversation about ceramic tiles and a whole bunch more. You're going to love it. It is really one of those conversations you sit down with a coffee or a tea and just enjoy. Let's get to it. This is Colin.
The We Will Fix It Podcast. Colin is manning the desk alone today.
Yes, it's just me, people. Be very scared.
So I rock up at We Will Fix It today, and this place is literally. I thought there was something being given away. I don't know what was going on. I mean, I rocked up right as the troops are getting their assignments and heading out. I'd never been here at that hour.
No, we don't let people in normally, James. You're an hour early. People aren't supposed to see that.
But it was fantastic, and the organization that was going on. You know, it was organized chaos, but you know, everyone was lined up. They were doing their things. They were talking. They were having some fun. They were getting their ice. They were getting their assignments. They were having a conversation. Changes were being made. Questions were being asked, and everyone just was smiling and happy, and they were getting on with it.
It is the oddest time because, in effect, we've got half an hour between 8 o'clock and 8:30, where one of the things we've always done since day one is that there is a briefing that happens on every single job that we do between the bookings team and the technicians. And the reason for that is simple, which is how can you not have a really effective segue to the person who's spoken to the customer already and the person who actually is doing that job?
And so the bookings team has taken the notes. They've gone through the conversation, the queries, the questions, the comments. Because I actually heard one of the bookings team's people talking to the guys who were going to go fix something, asking, going through and I just caught the in-betweens of it, but saying, oh, don't forget, they're concerned about this, they're concerned about that. And I saw then the guys who were going to go do the repairs grabbing some extra stuff, saying, okay, we'll go grab these just in case we need it.
Yeah, but if you imagine, it's 120 jobs odd a day.
Wow.
And every single job has to work that way because really our worst, our whole tagline is one call, one visit, job done.
Yeah.
Well, if that conversation doesn't happen and is treated effectively, then at that point it's one call, two visits, three visits, four visits.
Which is what everyone's used to. I mean, that's what, come and spec out the job, then go back, then come back, and then come back and fix the job that wasn't done quite right.
And then when you think as a customer, there's nothing more irritating than you've finally taken the time off work, in many instances, to get the job done. The people turn up and they can't do the job. I mean, it's just ridiculous, isn't it?
How many times does that happen? Well, that's why you got into the business, because you were doing the same thing.
It was exactly it. It's exactly it. And, it's been
I can't figure out where that mentality comes from. That idea that, well, we'll get it done eventually. Maybe it's because it's not expensive. Maybe it's because it's just the way it's always been. I don't know.
When we started in 2008, that was exactly it. So that was the way it had always been done. Yeah. And for us, that was kind of the real core idea of what we were going to do differently. So imagine we just turned up and did the job. I mean, it's not rocket science, is it?
When you and Dan got into this, and I know we've spoken about this before, but was it a big leap? Did you were ready to move on from both of your other jobs, but you guys both had great jobs.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned previously on Dubai that I was at PlayStation. Dan was a recruitment consultant, and we both.
You guys were set. You could have just kept going on. And
I loved my job. I absolutely loved it. How many people wouldn't enjoy being involved with PlayStation and selling games? It was fantastic. I loved every single day.
You still play your PlayStation?
So. I don't get the time, two small kids, and Daddy is sat playing PlayStation. It's difficult. And,
it is.
Also our kids wake up really early, and to do that kind of day, we actually go to sleep ridiculously early as well. So that traditional time that parents get, which is kind of the 8 o'clock onwards when the kids have gone to sleep, is just not that feasible. But saying that, I'm still really close to all the PlayStation team here.
Really?
It's
That's
amazing.
10 years on.
Well, the crazy thing is, when I came out here, it was just in effect two of us that came from London to do everything, and then when we left, the next team that came out was the guys I've been working with in London. So it's wonderful now. So really loads of really good memories with those guys, and so I bob in whenever I can, and we do a bit of work together as well, actually, with promos with schools, for instance, that we work together on. But a wonderful brand and fantastic to work with. But the whole idea really was, I could imagine 20 years after that point and been sat there very, very happily doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And I just kind of felt as though we needed to shake things up a bit in my life. And it was a really odd period because in the space of 3 weeks, I'd finished work at PlayStation. Interestingly enough, I then contracted myself back to PlayStation to finish off a few things, which was the oddest situation ever. And then met my, now wife.
Yeah.
So I was a great catch at that time, unemployed, just thrown away a very nice job, and had this crazy idea for a maintenance company. And Dan was in a very similar situation. Apart from he had a brain, so he waited for kind of the first 2 or 3 months, and bless him, he was working every hour that God sends because he was doing his full work day.
Yeah.
And then at 7 o'clock, he would meet me at my dining table, and we would carry on. I'd update on where I got to during the day, and then we'd go and research in the evening. So it was, for us, it was things like we'd be stood outside Spinneys and Choitrums and carrying people shopping, and asking them questions about maintenance at the same time. And
doing a little market research.
Yeah, it was. But I mean, one of the things that came out of that was that simple concept, which was, why is it that when people turn up to do a job, they then can't do it?
Yeah.
And it was where that nugget came from. So you talk about when you're at business school, you talk about the core angle of being customer focused and understanding what people actually want. And believe it or not, the way we set up the company in those days was totally factored to that. So what do people actually want here? What's different? So what they were telling us at that time was, we want people that are A, going to turn up on time, secondly, do the job, thirdly, clean up after themselves.
That's a big one, isn't it? The whole cleanup side.
How basic is that? Can you imagine going to somebody's house, drilling a whole bunch of holes and then leaving it all over the floor? It's horrific.
And that is the way, till this day, that many operations operate. And they figure, well, you've got a maid, you've got a cleaning crew at your house, they'll do it.
Yeah, but how wrong is that?
Every time someone would come to my place and do that, I'd say, hold on a second, guys. I'm the cleanup crew. So here's the broom, and here's the mop, and here's some rags. And I'm thinking, well, why haven't you guys brought all this stuff?
It's part of our standard training. So the deal with our guys is, if for any reason that property isn't cleaner when you leave than when you arrive, then you haven't done your job. And that's not cool. So it's really been a key facet of what we do. I guess the final one is warranty. So people need to trust you. Yeah. If you're just coming to their house for an hour, how do people trust you? Well, they know that if for any reason anything goes wrong, we'll be straight back there. But again, making our guys clear that they need to test every repair that they do and explain it to a customer.
Yeah.
And we've got the most wonderful trainer that we use. He's only just been in. He just did 2 days with our guys. He is the biggest bargain that I know. His main client here is Audi.
Okay.
And their customer service is wonderful throughout the region. And he's one of our earliest customers as well. So from 2008,
what does he do with your team?
So we sit down. There's a big long planning process that goes in because we've been tweaking. And one of the lovely things is we tend to retain our staff really well. So we've got,
which is huge.
Yeah,
in
it's
this
really
market.
important. So it means that he's actually he's building on the work that he's done before. So as a result of that, I think this one was very much focused on the communication with the customer, taking them through what's been done, and also feedback. These days, you know how many emails you receive when you purchase something that drive you up the wall. Well, instead of that process, the online process that takes extra time from people, what about at the stage when you're giving them an invoice, you're asking them for money? Why not at that stage look for that feedback? So that, okay, what could we do to make this better? Some people will like to put that verbally out. So our guys have been told, look, we want that information. So there's things you could have improved on. Well, we're not going to be negative about that. We just want to improve.
Yeah.
So getting them to understand that this isn't a blame mentality. This is a method by which we can all improve.
Right.
And we hugely support that has been magical. And
do the guys take it on easly? I mean, it's
no. It's been a really long process. I guess we've been banging on about that now for a couple of years. But providing other avenues for people to feed back to us has been critical. Sure. And now, there's
and
9 different ways that they can get hold of us. And, we have an email address, gm@WeWillFixIt.com for anyone listening, which is there for anybody that instead of actually wanting to chat to the boys, want to talk to our general manager. And he's there. I'm available constantly on Facebook. I have a standard thing, which is on our We Will Fix It Dubai page. Anybody that's got any queries whatsoever can send me a message, and we get back to them direct.
Which is awesome.
I think it should be the norm now. But again,
but so many places and so many organizations, there's so many barriers to actually reaching people.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. But again, we each have a different role here. We have a wonderful chat function, so people can talk directly to our British bookings team live through our website at any time. Again, we're just implementing actually a business WhatsApp package so that people can WhatsApp us now and get that detail through.
So many, that is really becoming the way to communicate, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But then WhatsApp's they've developed really well in just the last 6 months. So our big problem was, okay, well, it's lovely getting that message in, but how do we get that integrated so that way it's not just one message that's lost, but instead we can get it into our system so that way we can track it and we know what's going to happen in that whole process after that first communication. So now we have this quite a dramatic booking system, to say the least, which is designed to basically pull from every media channel that we need to keep all that information.
That's
in one
pretty
place.
tough because you mentioned Facebook, you've got your email stuff.
Yep, Instagram is there as well.
Wow.
I mean, the idea is whichever communication route our customers are most comfortable with, they're able to contact us. And this actually came out of the most ridiculous situation, which I never realised, but an amazing insight. In my son's class at school, we have a number of customers that are the parents of the other kids.
Okay.
And there is the most wonderful German lady there, who unfortunately she's just left Dubai, but over a coffee at school one day, she said, "You know what? I absolutely love your guys. They're really, really knowledgeable. The job goes really well every time. But do you know, it takes me 45 minutes to find the technical words in the dictionary that I need in English to be able to make the phone call. And I get really scared about that phone call because I'm worried that I'm not going to know the words that I need to describe it."
Okay.
So you're like, okay, so because we've got this fluent English and, well, some Irish as well, to be fair, bookings team, which we thought was such a major benefit to anybody calling, it turns out that actually, in some instances, that can be more difficult. So we then had the conversation, well, how would you like to be able to communicate? And what it came down to was there was a mixture of, okay, well, let's imagine it was on chat. And she's like, oh, I still have the problem with the words. And we said, okay, well, what about WhatsApp? And at that time, we didn't have the functionality available through WhatsApp to integrate everything in. But the wonderful thing is it's moving so quickly now, technology, that we're at the stage now where we really can do that integration. And so it's wonderful. There's so many people here. We sometimes forget that for many people, English isn't their first language.
Yeah, exactly.
And to be able to cater for them as well in a more comfortable environment is really key for us. And that's something we're working on very hard.
There's something, last week I got a tour around your shop, which was kind of fun, and stumbled onto your water purification area.
Ah, yes.
What's going on with all that? And Dan was saying this has been one of your pet projects, and you've learned a lot online. You've learned a lot through practice, trial and error.
Yeah.
Walk me through what's going on here.
Okay, so basically in the UK, there's a big push for, especially from window cleaning, to move away from the traditional chemicals which are harmful for the environment, and go to a pure water setup to clean windows. So the normal water that comes from our DEWA taps is anywhere between 130 and probably 200 parts per million of impurity. Mm-hmm. Now, when we say impurity, everybody thinks, oh, that's absolutely awful. What is this that I'm drinking? But the actual truth of it is it's probably things just like minerals that are in there. It's perfectly safe water, as we all know.
And this is pretty common globally when you
absolutely
everyone's water system.
Yeah. You actually do not want to be drinking pure water. Okay,
right.
But the process that we have is designed to create pure water because pure water is really uncomfortable. Okay, what it basically
what do you mean it's really uncomfortable?
It doesn't like staying in that state.
Okay,
it works almost like a dirt magnet. Where it's looking to find dirt.
So you don't want to drink this pure water?
Oh, no. It'll pull all of those minerals and everything that works really well in your body. It will pull it out of your body and into the water that's there. So the last thing you want to be doing is drinking that. And basically the process that we kind of created was a mixture. It's a hybrid of some technology that came from the UK and a lot of reading that I'd done as well to create a system where not only is it almost like an on-demand system where it will refill as it's used, so we almost have an endless supply, which works really well. but we can take from whatever water supply we have and take it right the way down to 0 parts per million, which is totally pure water. So when it actually hits the window, interestingly enough, we then have a mobile unit in all the vans, which not only has the water, but also has the final stage, we call it polishing, which is in case we got a bit of impurity back in there along the way, just before it hits the window, we throw it through another purification process so that it is absolutely pure when it hits that window.
Wow.
Yeah. From our perspective, the reason we really like it is the environmental side, which is massive here in Dubai, especially with a lot of the developers are huge on not wanting to get contamination into their water supplies. In fact, here's the case that people don't think about on that. Again, I live in the Arabian Ranches, and there's been a big push to stop car cleaning. And everybody thinks, why is all this? It's not fair, blah, blah, blah. But the reason is the lakes that they have there have had huge problems with the amount of algae growth.
Oh, with the sulfides.
Exactly, that's come from all of this. So we go in and we're cleaning all these windows with absolutely pure water. So there is nothing that is going into the water that is dodgy in any degree. So that's wonderful. From our side of things, we can wash a window rather with our water, and from there you can leave it wet, and there will be no marks. So the marks you get on a window when it dries, that's the impurity.
Okay.
So because ours are pure, when once we clean the window, we can just let it dry naturally, and it will come out absolutely sparkly.
You gonna since you built this whole system, is this something that you can patent or put together and outsource and start selling some of these around?
It's been done. It's been done in a lot of different places. I think I've probably made the process a little bit more convoluted than it needed to be, just for fun.
It's huge. I mean, not huge. It doesn't have a big footprint, but there's a lot of pieces in there.
It's an 11-stage process. And on top of that, at any time, we're storing anything up to 2,000 gallons of pure water. And actually within the whole setup is 3,500 gallons of water. So it is a hell of a setup.
Yeah.
And in all truth, did we really need something like that? Probably not. But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Well,
you got to have the pet projects, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's all. One of the things that Dan has especially been good with me is when there is something like that comes up, he's all for it, and we kind of see where it takes us, and sometimes I'd say 9 times out of 10 it's an absolute dead in the water, no use to us ever, but probably 1 in 10 we come up with something quite special, which is good.
One of the things you'd posted up some photos of not so long ago was some recycled pallets that you I mean, we were talking about this a year ago.
Yeah, we were.
You were starting to do stuff with that. But between yourself and Simon over on 92,
yes,
you guys have gone crazy with making pallet furniture, pallet bars, pallet everything.
And it's a really fascinating. It was our conversations on Dubai back in the day that really started me off, and it kind of mushroomed quite dramatically. So there's lots of pallet furniture around, as everybody knows. I wanted to do something that was a little bit a kind of a stage beyond that, which was
what do you mean a stage beyond?
Well, traditionally you get a bunch of pallets, you put them in a configuration,
and all pallets are not the same. This is the
no, absolutely not. There is some absolute garbage out there. So how do
you find the pallets? Are you getting new ones? Are you getting literally old ones that have been cast away?
Mine were single-use pallets, closed-board single-use pallets. So what that means is a traditional pallet has big gaps between the panels on the top. Yeah. Well, for what I needed, I really wanted wider boards and closer as well.
Is better quality wood on the closed single-use pallets?
Not really. Not really. But I wanted, rather than just repurpose, which is let's put them all together in a different configuration and paint it, I was much more interested in stripping the pallets entirely and using the components to build something new. Okay. So the idea came, my brother-in-law, bless him, has just built the most fantastic bar, and he's got this enormous thatched pergola over the top of it in the villa. And I couldn't really go with that solution because I've already got in my garden a
container, right?
Yeah, I got a container that was a project from 4 years ago now, I think.
We're talking about the pallets, but you're still happy with the container? Would you do it?
Yeah, the container's great. Yeah, I would. I'd do it slightly. In fact, I might be might be doing a little bit of an extension on that. Let's hope the wife isn't listening, because the way that I built that originally was so it's the base from a pallet, and then the corners and the roof are all the elements that you use for a container when you're building one, but were individually built for my design because I wanted it to be higher, and secondly I wanted everything to fit through a gate that was 90 centimeters wide rather than having to crane it in. So in effect, we everything is screwed together so I can take the whole thing down and move it if I need to. And secondly, because it is higher, you don't get kind of the same claustrophobic nature that you would do at the standard height of a pallet. So it's about 60 centimeters higher than normal. But the only issue is that footprint, the width of a container is just slightly 6'6".
Yeah, they're pretty.
So they're a little bit tight. So previously I'd had garden furniture in there and it just didn't flow. You kind of struggled once you've got the sofas in there and whatever. There just wasn't quite enough space. So I wanted to convert that to a bar concept, but I wanted like a high table that could still seat 8 people. And was still, if you can imagine, the nice thing about a bar table is they're traditionally a little bit narrower than a dining table. And when I kind of looked at the pallets and the kind of height that we were working with, I actually used my kitchen. We've got a kitchen bar table for the height. It turns out it's exactly pallet height. So I was like, oh, okay. So I can use pallets pretty much as they are with, actually not as they are, it was a hell of a lot of work.
Because you said you stripped them all down.
Well, yeah. So what I did was I actually did use, there was 14 pallets in my bar. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 in effect that are substructure that weren't stripped. So they were still, every single nail you have to basically put below the surface before you plane it and then sand it and fill it. And so that was... I mean, just to get to that stage was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks, I guess. And then once that was done, I then stripped the final 10 pallets into the components. And then across the top, actually, I used an exterior MDF to give it a little bit of structure over the top. And then I fishboned all of the top section so that way it was...
That's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work, but I really enjoyed it. And my little 3-year-old, as she was then, now 4, was determined to help, which is just the most lovely thing, A project you can do with your daughter is something incredible. And we talked about that at the time, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. How do you deal with, again, when you're looking at pallets, as you said, the wood can be pretty dodgy. It's softwood, it's cedars and stuff like that. If that pine, a lot of pine, that stuff warps and it's got a lot of splinters and all sorts of things.
So for that, I had quite a standard process, which was first of all knock down all the nails within it. Secondly, and this is for a complete pallet. At that point, I would then I did that on all of them. Thinking about it, I'd then plane. After that, random orbital sander, as rough as you can get it, because this wood really is quite nasty at this stage. And then work your way down the grit. So I was starting on literally like a 36 grit, which is as aggressive as you can get, and then finishing up with like 100 grit to before.
Well, that's a mistake a lot of people make, isn't it? They go from 1 grit right down to the finest they can get without gradually going through 4 or 5 different stages of it.
Exactly.
Speed versus quality.
Yeah, well, I think I went through three different grades. And the lovely thing with the random orbital is if you go somewhere like SpeedX, it only costs a dirham for each of those sanding.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. So I bought those in bulk. I think I got through something like 40 or 50 to do the whole thing. And then I would strip after I'd sanded. So the pallet was already, all of the planks were pretty much ready to go before I then split it. And splitting in itself is an art form, which takes...
What do you mean when you split it?
So if you imagine a pallet as it comes, you've got all of the elements that are nailed together. But trying to get those off with the least amount of damage is really difficult.
They're not made to come apart.
No, they're not. Most people use a crowbar.
Well, that's what I would use.
Yeah, but the problem is that cracks the wood really badly. So
what did you do?
I looked online at this crazy
Of course
method.
you looked online.
Yeah, YouTubed it. And there was a crazy method this guy had, which was using just 2 house bricks. So all you do is literally use your own weight and 2 house bricks. Put the 2 bricks on end at either side of the plank that you want, and then basically jump on any other element of the pallet to be able to knock it off. And it works so well. I'm now at like 95% success rate on that. And then all the nails need to come out, take those out, and away you go. But
that makes it pretty easy.
Got it down to a fine art now. I can literally strip a pallet in under 10 minutes now.
Wow.
So but you have to be a little bit careful. The health and safety is a little bit sketchy at the best of times. But no, it works really well.
Then you put the MDF on top, like prime these things and all that?
MDF first, and then after that, fish bones, all the panels all the way down. And then the process that I went through was, as you mentioned, so a sealer primer initially. But, actually, no, I didn't do that in the end. That was my plan, and then I changed it. Right. What I actually used was a pickling stain.
Oh,
because
a pickling stain?
A pickling stain.
I have no idea what that is.
Right. Basically, what a pickling stain is like a semi-translucent stain, which still shows you some of the grain of the wood that's underneath.
But you don't want to see the grain of wood of pallets, do you? I guess once you clean them all up, they're beautiful.
Exactly. Once you clean them all up, they're really nice. And also, I didn't want to hide the origins of this. I wanted to celebrate it. So
really,
yeah,
most people want to hide it. They paint them white, they paint them brown, they try to.
But in which case, buy yourself a cheap wooden table, you know. Because
you got a point.
So really, where I was going from was I wanted to kind of celebrate the humble origins of what I was building and try and elevate it to a much grander level, I've really enjoyed it. It's been utterly fantastic. So the pickling stain went on. After that, I then used 2 coats of an exterior grade satin varnish, which gives
on top of the pickling stain.
On top of the pickling stain.
Does that go together well?
Yes, it goes together beautifully.
They mate. It's mating, right?
Yeah,
they mate.
Yeah, exactly. And at that point, you end up with this incredible depth of colour because the stain is absorbed at different amounts depending on what it's hitting, whether it's a knot, wood, or there's little bits of repainted that's there as well. And you talked also about the fact that the wood likes to warp, and it does. Yeah. But again, celebrate it. It's all part of what you're creating, which is something that is, the traditions of shabby chic are massive, and it's a really rubbish term, isn't it?
It is.
But at the same time, what I love about that shabby chic idea is it's something that you're creating yourself. And I've got to say the first event that I did with it was both my daughter's and my mother-in-law's birthday party. Ooh, with 8 of us around it. And I just got some high bar stools from Dragonmark that were under 100 dirhams each. They're beautiful. They're absolutely stunning. And it's been just a raging success. I've really, really enjoyed it. I'm so glad we've got it, and it works so much better with the width of the container. It works so much better than the furniture ever did.
Do you think when you think back over the years and think of your engagement with DIY, do you think people have sort of lost that idea of tinkering a little bit and making some of their own stuff? And I know it kind of goes counterintuitive because at We Will Fix It, that's what you do. You come in and you do the repairs and things, not necessarily making pallet furniture for people.
No, definitely not.
But
not cost effective.
But generally, folks, do you think that they've just given up this? I want to make some pallet furniture. I'm gonna play around with putting in some putting in a container in the back and building that and making some errors and learning along the way.
I think it's that the traditional tinkering has disappeared to a degree. It's a really odd one, but then I also look at the commitments that people have these days, and the way that we live is very different from the 30, 40 years ago than our parents did.
Yeah. Well, but you said a great thing that you were able to do a lot of this with your daughter.
Yeah.
And so suddenly she's learning some vital skills that are going to make any guy weep when she says, well, how come we're not using an orbital sander when we're doing this? And he's going, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Says, well, and here's how you use that.
But I then look back to the generations, and I was there for every project my dad ever did. And my dad was ridiculously hands-on, and he did his projects with my great uncle, who was a mechanical engineer and had his own lathes and all this kind of stuff. And so we've got a real kind of history there that goes through the families, and without a doubt, I'm going to continue doing that with my kids. But I don't think anymore, going back to your question, I don't think that's kind of the done thing and normal anymore. Yeah. And I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. It's just people are really busy now, and I think you have to.
I wonder if we're busy with the wrong things, though. If we're attaching too much importance to some things and others not.
But I think maybe it's just different things, you know. I then look
it's a different world, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You know, I'm luckier than most. I have these days. I've got a little bit more downtime than your average person would, so I get to do these projects, and I've then got more time for taking my kids to the skate park or whatever it is. But most people in Dubai are working long hours during the week, and I've got 2 days and often commitments of those school parties or whatever else it is. So the available time isn't what it used to be to want to spend your time on these projects, and that's almost where We Will Fix It comes in. Yeah. So we can help with just getting things fixed that people need, rather than it having to be this enormous weekend project when they want to be spending time with their kids or doing their kids' parties or whatever else that they want to do.
I had one a couple of weeks ago, and I said, "You guys need to call We Will Fix It." We were at their villa, and they said, "Hey, come and take a look at this." And in the hallway between their master bedroom and their washroom, the paint was kind of bubbling close to the floor.
Yes.
As you would enter that hallway.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, that does, you got water somewhere.
Yes. It almost always, everybody thinks the worst case scenario in that circumstance, which is I've got a pipe in the wall that is leaking and this is going to be a complete nightmare. 9 times out of 10, that's not the case. Normally, what it is the seal around the bath has failed, and as a result, the water, because most of the properties here are constructed of solid concrete on a floor level, even when you move up from ground level, the water flows along the slab and then finds almost like a sponge in effect, which is the wall, to be able to come back up again. So the oddest thing that we found over the years is it's not always just the other side of where you're seeing the effervescence where the issue will be. Quite often it's 9-10 feet away, where in a place you'd never even have thought to fix. It is a bit of a nightmare fix though, that one, because it's so slow.
Yeah.
So in effect, do you remember actually when Kevin, who's our operations manager here, came on to Dubai Eye?
I do remember.
Right. Well, if you remember, he went through the process of how to seal a bath at that stage.
And I remember the sage advice he gave: make sure you fill the bathtub with water.
Yeah, fill the bathtub with water.
Which whoever thinks of that?
Well, even more nuts. I didn't know until that day that was the way you're supposed to do it. But it's genius because, in effect, you have some flex within silicone when you're sealing. However, the time when it is going to fail is when you are physically in the bath with the amount of water that comes with you and water. Yeah. So therefore, your midpoint is water alone. So again, just so that people are clear on that one, that little bit of advice is if you do have leaks on your walls, or you can see that there's effervescence there, have a good look first of all at the silicone that's around your bath. Quite often you can't even see it, but if it hasn't been done for over kind of a year and a half, 2 years, you can remove all of the old silicone, fill the bathtub with water, and then at that point, reseal around it. Leave it for 24 hours as a minimum before using that again.
Okay. I think people don't realize that as well, that you've got to let it cure.
Exactly, yeah. So 24 hours to let that cure, and away you go.
Tiles, it's fitting around the same thing. Floor tiles, we have a lot of floor tiles in our homes here in Emirates.
Yes. Well, I've just had. We don't do tiling because the reason is it's just not economic. It takes so long that when you say to somebody, "Oh yes, I can happily retail that for you," and it's going to cost you $2,500 for the privilege, and that's labour before we even get onto.
It's a huge job. I mean, that is a skill. Yeah,
it is a skill, and it's really hit and miss, if I'm honest, but there are some really good tilers there that are under that kind of labourer banner.
Yeah, the good ones are hard to find.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got, as it turns out, so I had the most ridiculous tsunami of coincidences that happened in the last week and a half.
Fire away. I'm looking forward to this.
My mother-in-law, Marilyn, has been saying, only recently told us that her hip was hurting. And we kind of knew.
How long has it been hurting, though?
2 years, right? Bless her. She's one of these stoic ladies.
So she's been suffering through the pain for 2 years.
Yeah, and we knew it wasn't great, but we didn't know that it was at the level that it was. So we had finally a week last Wednesday, we'd done a whole bunch of research. We found the guy that we really wanted to go and see. Got the appointment. Absolutely wonderful. So I went to see him on the Wednesday, and my wife and mother-in-law came out and said, this guy is just incredible. Absolutely incredible. And my wife is the most cynical lady you've ever met. So when she said that, I'm like, my goodness, we really are onto something here. So then the one problem was he was emigrating back to Canada the following Tuesday. So we're less than a week off. So we're like, oh, God, no, this is an absolute disaster. And he said, yeah, but I've just had a cancellation for tomorrow.
You got to love the Emirates, right?
It is just nuts, isn't it? So basically they did the scans, and yes, she needs a hip replacement. Absolute nightmare. So so we were like, okay, come on, Nana, let's just do it. Let's get this done.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, it cancelled out the next day, but we finally got it done. He was leaving on the Tuesday. We finally got it done on the Sunday.
Oh.
But so for Marilyn, she needed to move in with us for a while.
Okay.
Now, the one downstairs bedroom that we've got in our place has been converted over to a play area for the kids, which is pretty normal. But I haven't even been in the bathroom in 3 years or so. So as soon as I heard this, I ran in there, and the tiles were so far off the wall you would not believe. I was just like, how have these not fallen off and smashed?
Yeah.
So luckily it's the cooler period, and there's a little bit of availability around about. So I rang Kev. I said, Kev, you're going to hate this one. This one's really bad. I need a team that can do tiling. We don't do tiling, boss. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I know we don't do tiling, Kev. I still need this, okay? So I need a team that's going to come, pull all the tiles off, and then I need a complete replacement, regrouting, and by the way, you've got 24 hours to get the whole thing done. One entire wall. Oh, and then, by the way, Kev, I've just looked round, and the other wall has got another 8 tiles that are coming off. So Kev's like, oh, God, here we go. He's done this to me that many times. Really, one more time, is this going to work? So he sent over this team of ours that, again, we aren't specialist tilers in any shape or form. But
I think that's, just to interrupt, but we'll get back to the tiling, but I think that's what I absolutely love about you guys is you do what you do really well, and what you don't do, you don't do. And you recommend and say, hey, this is not our field, but here's this, that, or the other person that might be able to help you.
Isn't that the oddest thing? Because in Dubai, the tradition is, oh, yes, sir, we can do that for you. We can do that. And then they do a terrible job. Yeah. And then
first time they've ever done it.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I saw it done once.
Yeah. But again, that started in 2008. We were adamant that anything that we would take on, we'd do well. And there were a few errors in the early days, to be brutally honest with you. But we're really clear now what we do and what we don't do. And we've got a whole bunch of specialists that we've come up with over the years, who we will happily recommend.
Okay, so tell me about the tiles. So Kevin, you got the team came in.
So team came in day one. So I reckoned it was about 12 to 14 tiles. Day one, they started. I tapped on the tiles and I'm like, oh, those ones are a little bit odd. Yeah. But I think we'll get away with it. Anyway, the phone call came in. They've taken 70 tiles off the wall.
70.
70. I quoted 14. Right.
Yeah.
So
that's like almost your entire bathroom.
It was the one full wall on the shower cubicle, and it's a decent sized shower cubicle. But the fascinating thing for me was that these guys had basically their attitude was, I've got to get back to something that is totally and utterly solid to be able to continue, rather than actually leaving it as a kind of a 50-50 that I was happy to do on this occasion, my own house. That mentality that we've been beaten into them for the last 10 years, which is it has to be right. Yeah. You either do it right or not, even though it wasn't something that was core skill for them. They just kept going because they wanted it absolutely right. So at the same time, the purchasing team were working on replacement tiles, because there's no way you can get 70 tiles off without cracking something.
Yeah.
But the fascinating thing, which is the discussion you and I have had about floor tiles in the past, was I thought, because my property is constructed of prefabricated concrete panels, I thought there was a joint behind that was causing the problem there. It wasn't at all. It was that when on the original application, there was massive air pockets.
Oh, they left something in. They just didn't do it right.
Air pockets, which had over time had just knocked it all off, and it was just rubbish how it had been done.
Wow.
So as it turns out, once it all got cleaned up, it was all ready to go. And, and bless them, they got the final job's immaculate. I'm really, really happy with it. But again, you then think about the economics of it. Yeah. And to be able to do that job, we would have been charging, say, for one wall of a bathroom would have been 3,500 to 4,000 dirhams if we were doing that commercially. Yeah. And the reality is, we're not good value at that.
Yeah.
So why would you offer that service when you know that you're not good value at something? Yeah, and again, in Dubai, that happens all the time. It drives me up the wall.
I've seen some, speaking of tiles, I saw some floor tiles the other day at someone's villa, and I noticed some cracking on the wall, and the tiles were lifting on the floor. And I thought, it was interesting because the cracks were really lining up with the floor. So there's been some shifting or something.
That would be really unusual because, again, we were just talking before about most of the floors here in Dubai are slabs, and then the walls are, in effect, normally created separate from that. But if you have got that so the link up, in effect...
or maybe it just looked like it was linked up.
Possible, yeah. But, again, if a property settles, which is kind of normal, you get some element of settlement, it can cause that. But again, these days, just being able to look at the shape of the cracks and the way they go, I can normally work out whether it's just settlement or Houston, we've got a problem, run. But I've only had, I think in the 10 years, I've only had probably 3 or 4 of those. Right, no, this one's really serious. Time for a...
I see a lot of cracking. Where did I see some cracking? Get it on the walls at a villa. And it looked to me like it's one of those places where they had to chip out to put some of the aircon or something in. And over the years now, it started to crack at that spot where they've put the concrete
standard.
Yeah.
It's so irritating because a lot of that's the standard bodge, standard Dubai bodge in that situation. So whether or not it was a drain pipe that was going in, whatever reason,
I can't even figure out why they can't just figure that out when they're putting it in. Why are they retrofitting like that and chipping away?
It happens. Sometimes, if you, especially if it's not one from the main developers, you realise after the event that you've underspec'd an AC, and therefore the easiest way of sorting that is with the wall-mounted independent unit.
It's the guy with the hammer.
Yeah.
And I just think, that's the worst job in the world as he's chipping away at a Hollywood brick.
Yes, but again, we on the odd occasion that we've done that kind of job, we go in with really big hammer action drills to get through it as quickly as we possibly can, again, to try and be economic on the job. But the cracking on the wall in that situation is down to the fact that they've used a basic plaster of Paris mix rather than bothering with grey cement, white cement, and then
they've done it easy.
They've just done it. No, it's not easy. It's just silly. It's not even a cost. The difference in cost is under 10 dirhams, and it's
so then why would they do it?
Because it's the simple way. Only one thing they have to buy rather than 3, and they don't have to wait for the drying process in between the grey cement, white cement, and
but that's the other mistake people make. Yeah. When they just put the plaster of Paris on, they don't let it dry.
Yep, and then they paint it, and at that point, everything.
The surface is dry, but it's not dry underneath.
Oh. Basics. But it's regular that those kind of problems happen.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that you probably get called in to fix.
Yeah. And
how often do you guys end up getting called in to fix something else that someone's botched up?
Most of the time it's on the technical side. So AC is probably 30% of the work we do is somebody else's bodge that we're dealing
30%?
with.
30%? That's huge.
Yeah, it is. But there's some really simple scenarios, like the big cost items, which is where people understandably really want to save money. So you need a compressor replacement. Yeah. And that sounds really expensive, the quote. And, there's a 12-month warranty from us, but quite often we will get that. Oh, I'm so sorry, but, for one reason or another, which we fully understand, not doable. And next thing we're like, normally 6 to 8 weeks later, we get a phone call saying, okay, so we got the replacement done elsewhere, and it's not cooling anymore. We the guys were terrible, so, we don't want to call them back, or they're not answering our phone call, which is the normal one.
Yeah.
Please, can you come and just take a look at it? And we get there, and it's normally one of 2 different scenarios. The first one is either it is the wrong spec compressor, so they've just got whatever compressor they had there. Doesn't really matter about the compatibility with the unit, but whatever compressor they had.
People do that? They actually do that?
Constantly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He says with a smile.
Oh, it's just incredible. Or the second one is, it's a second-hand compressor that's gone in, and they didn't even bother to clean the line. So everybody knows that there's gas that flows around, okay? Yeah. But that gas also has an oil lubricant within it as well to keep everything flowing effectively. If you don't clean it out, and it's a bit of a process, I mean, it's a nitrogen gas, and then another gas that needs to go along with the nitrogen to be able to clean everything out properly. If you don't clean it, then the compressor is having to work super hard to be able to push everything around, and that's often the reason why the previous compressor failed. So you then go and put a new compressor on, don't bother cleaning your lines, and this new compressor is literally going, my goodness, I'm having to push so much harder than I thought I needed to. And then you get this failure. Yeah. And at that point, you are 2 dead compressors in, and it has to be done all over again.
And if they've sold you the compressor to start with, even if they've given it to you at a discount, you're still looking at thousands of dirhams.
Absolutely, and you haven't had a warranty in that situation. No. You know, so it's a really tough one to explain to people, and especially in the current economic environment. Sure. That's a standard. There is only a certain amount of money that people have for maintenance stuff, and landlords are not the most wonderful individuals at times in terms of looking after their properties properly. And to a degree, that's almost where our essential maintenance business came from, which is, okay, let's take the majority of that away from a landlord so that a landlord can be confident that it's been serviced properly. Yeah. We'll provide all the supporting data when there is a hardware failure, but everything apart from hardware failures we'll take on board ourselves as being the cost that you paid at the start of the year.
Do you get a lot of landlords who are buying into this and saying, hey, you know what, let's just, we want the service, go.
Yes. The lovely thing is, because we called it essential maintenance, because after 10 years, we knew what people need and we know what people don't need. So our boys are not going to be spraying down a driveway every week.
We've talked about that.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. That one properly gets me, James. I'm like, what? So you're paying somebody to come to your house to spray your water on your driveway? Yeah. For absolutely no reason. And that
get the broom, get a broom out and be done with it. What a waste.
Just nuts. Yeah. It's utterly nuts. And so Essential is all about paring it back. So what if we gave you quality, but only what you really need, nothing more? If you want more services, then they're there and they're available, and we can provide those for you. But the Essential contract, it's one contract. No bronze, silver, gold. There's one contract.
So what are the essential things that you tend to be fixing?
So start point is, before we start a contract, your whole property gets surveyed. So that way you know what problems there are. Okay.
And looking at stuff, you must be able, you look up at the ceiling tiles, you see the water heaters, you go, yeah, absolutely. I can tell you this is.
Well, no, we remove the ceiling tiles and actually look at that water heater and work out whether or not that is the issue or something different. That's the level that we go to.
Wow.
So basically, before a unit comes onto warranty with us, it gets fixed correctly. So that way, we've already started before the contract with a reliable unit. After that, 3 services through the year. Standard, which is there. We have a 12-month service warranty for that. So anything apart from a hardware failure, and we will cover it without a doubt. 24/7, if you have an emergency, which is anything in effect in your property. You've got water pouring out the ceiling, your electrics go off.
So you have teams sitting here, you've got a couple of teams who are ready to go 24/7?
24/7, 365. There is a team that is available and other teams that are on call. So the lovely thing is, now that we're at that kind of scale that we are, we've got coverage for absolutely everything. Wow. So imagine that we had the absolute tsunami from hell and everything got knocked out on for our customers. We literally have the teams available to deal with all of it there and then and within 90 minutes. It's lovely now. But we think that is the way that annual maintenance should be done, which is just the stuff that you need, nothing that you don't need. And when you need us, we really will be there. Yeah. And all of our vehicles are tracked. So therefore, the point that from the phone call, our phone calls are tracked as well. So we have an automatic system that from the time the phone call happens to the time the team are there, we measure it to the second so that we know that we're hitting the timescales that we've committed to.
And so when the customer calls and says, it's getting worse, how's your team? You can literally look and say they're 2 minutes out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got. our tracking system is now within. I think we're now within 30 centimeters anywhere in the world.
That's pretty amazing.
It's incredible. Well, it was actually designed for South Africa and the transportation of cash for banks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's an incredible story that. So they basically in South Africa things are a little bit more lawless, shall we say, for these circumstances.
Yeah.
So the company that's now in the UAE actually created the system which was designed for the transportation of money to and from banks in Johannesburg. The one problem that they ran into was, we can now track the vehicles, but the vehicle isn't where we know it is. And the reason was it was 6 foot up in the air inside a container on a lorry in the location.
No.
So they added a new function in, which was, so they obviously have the topography, and they're able to work out when the vehicles were lifted. So that way they knew that it had been lifted and it was inside the van. So they could tell to they have helicopter teams in Johannesburg now, which is just nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when the team's tracking it, they can know, okay, it's now inside that container. You're not going to see it, but trust in what we've got.
Wow.
It's nuts.
That's really neat.
So for us, we know, for instance, which lane in Alcal Road our teams are driving on. And if it's the fast lane, then all of a sudden an email will come to us going, guess what's happening on Alcal Road? And you'd be amazed how good our drivers are now.
Accountability. I mean, that's the other side.
That's what it's all about. Yeah. So and bless them, they've really embraced it. We have a driver table every month, so the best driver gets a prize every month, and they really do battle for that.
I would imagine. I would imagine. You know, as I said when I was here first thing, it was fun. There was a buzz in the air. It wasn't that I'm at work today. There was a legitimate buzz. It was fun to just be around. It's very infectious.
Yeah, it is. I agree. It's a real team. It's a real positive atmosphere, which we really like. And one of the great things actually about Filipinos is they're all about the kabayans and that team mentality, and it's something we love. We've always stressed since day one that we're an English-Filipino partnership, and that works a treat for us.
I loved it this morning. As I was looking at all the trucks, I saw yourself taking a little look at some of the trucks as well.
Yeah. I spotted a little bit of damage on one truck. And again, so from that moment, it immediately went via WhatsApp to the team. Okay, has this been tracked? Why isn't it repaired yet? And for me, it's all about the branding. And I don't like having a vehicle that isn't immaculate, and one wasn't. So.
Well, it says something about one's work.
I completely agree.
How are we getting there? I notice everything's clean too, and that's what not only do you leave a place clean, but you show up and everything is spotless.
It should be. That's exactly how you need to work. You are a demonstration of your brand and what people can expect of you. And again, that's something that is critical to us. Every morning, the routine's washing vans here. Yeah. And if I see one that isn't up to scratch like I did this morning, then about 6 seconds later, people are going to hear about it.
Well, we got through some of the stuff on this list.
It's always the way, isn't it?
But
20%.
I think next time. We got to go through the top 5 calls of the week. I think we got to put in top 5 calls.
Yes.
And I there was another question on here that I really wanted to ask you about that thing that stands out as that holy crap moment that you've gotten over repairs or
is that
lessons.
For next week?
Yeah.
Oh right, okay.
We're gonna
I know exactly which one I've got for that.
I thought we'd wrap it up, but it's been a lot of fun as always. And like you said, we got 20% of the speaking notes done.
Yeah, I know. It's more fun this way though, isn't it? No real structure. Let's just go for it.
But the other side is I always get people now who, because they know that we're doing this again, who first of all, they want to know when you're on with Helen on Dubai Eye. And then they're saying, well, can I just give you some questions as well? I say, absolutely. Because we podcast it out on Podaholics. And I'll send it to you as well. So you can fire it up on the We Will Fix It site.
Sounds good.
We will. I'm looking at the sign right now. If people want to get in touch with you, 800-FIX, 800-349. And of course, you can go WeWillFixIt.com.
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, we've got it.
Colin, we'll talk again real soon.
Sounds wonderful.
Have a good one.
Bye. Thanks. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the We Will Fix It Show, a Podaholics podcast with Colin from WeWillFixIt.com. As always, one of those conversations you just can't stop listening to. You want to drop us a comment, a query, a question, get a hold of us on the socials at Podaholics. That's Podaholics with a K. Or fire us an email. It's really simple. podaholicswithak@gmail.com. Share the link, and we'll talk to you again really soon. So long for now.